The media directs your attention to kinetic events. A Russian Il-20 spy plane is intercepted by Japan. In Ukraine, operators debate the use of an AI-powered strike drone. This is the missile narrative. It is loud, visible, and a strategic liability. It teaches you to look for the explosion, to fear the incoming projectile. This is a fundamental misreading of the battle space. The primary vector of modern conflict is not kinetic. It is silence. The true targets are the two pillars of Western power, the global financial transaction network and the military's command and control grid. Both are dependent on a system of undersea fiber optic cables and satellite constellations. This is not a physical infrastructure. It is the nervous system of the Western order. Analysts at RUSI and CSIS have mapped these vulnerabilities for years. Severing these data arteries does not require a carrier strike group. It requires a specialized submarine or a targeted anti-satellite weapon. The kinetic cost is low. The systemic cost is total. This is an information solvency crisis. The objective is not to destroy an asset, but to make the entire system blind. This protocol creates the blind Leviathan, a state with overwhelming kinetic force, but its eyes have been removed and its nervous system is disabled. It cannot process targeting data, confirm its own asset locations, or clear global financial transactions. With its sensors dark, a launch-on-warning protocol designed to deter a decapitation strike flips from a deterrent to a mathematical certainty. It is triggered not by an attack, but by the systemic silence that precedes it. The pivot to asymmetric warfare is not a strategic masterstroke. It is a distress signal. Analysts misinterpret these actions as a show of strength when they are, in fact, the final moves of an insolvent state. The core driver is not ambition. It is a domestic solvency crisis. CSIS and Forbes have extensively modeled this dynamic in Russia. The kinetic cost of a conventional peer-to-peer conflict has created a catastrophic domestic liability. An unpopular war funded by a shrinking economic base erodes the regime's political capital. This is not a geopolitical strategy. It is a mathematical equation balancing domestic unrest against external aggression. When a state can no longer afford the price of conventional force, it is compelled to find leverage elsewhere. Weakness forces this pivot. Asymmetry becomes the only viable vector. Why spend billions on a carrier strike group when a zero-day exploit in critical infrastructure, like the VMware vulnerability flagged by CISA, can achieve disproportionate paralysis for a fraction of the cost? This is the blueprint of 21st century conflict. The adversary's internal fragility becomes an accelerant for global systemic risk. Unable to win a symmetric fight, their strategy shifts to a launch-on-warning protocol for non-kinetic attacks, aiming to shatter our complex systems before their own brittle foundation collapses. The solvency crisis of one becomes the systemic crisis of all. The solvency of Western military doctrine is calculated on an obsolete cost curve. This isn't a mistake, it's a systemic failure. The Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, puts the kinetic cost into perspective. A $5 million main battle tank, a monument to industrial-era power, can be mission-killed by a $500 FPV drone. This is a 10,000 to 1 cost imbalance. This isn't warfare, it's arbitrage. This dynamic has a name: the democratization of violence. It doesn't mean peace. It means the state's monopoly on high lethality, standoff-capable force has been broken by commercial technology. Any adversary, state or non-state, can now achieve strategic effects for the cost of a consumer electronic. The economic barrier to entry for high-level conflict has collapsed, turning every complex asset into a catastrophic liability. The West is focused on the wrong map. While strategic attention is fixed on conventional flashpoints, the real vectors of attack are being calibrated elsewhere. These are not sovereign nations. They are gray zones, unstable regions repurposed as proxy laboratories. They function as sandboxes for systemic disruption, operating below the threshold of a kinetic response. Consider the operational blueprint. According to CSIS analysis, state actors no longer launch primary cyber attacks from their own IP space. It's too traceable. Instead, they leverage these gray zones. A vulnerability like the one CISA identified in VMware's vCenter software is not first weaponized against the Pentagon. It is tested and refined in a lower-stakes environment, a regional bank, a municipal power grid, where attribution is murky and defenses are weaker. This provides the blueprint for a future high-impact strike on core Western infrastructure. This staging is multi-domain. While cyber exploits are tested, physical reconnaissance gathers critical data. A Russian Il-20 spy plane probing Japanese airspace is not merely a provocation. It is intelligence gathering for targeting protocols. This data informs the deployment of next-generation asymmetric assets, which are themselves being battle-tested in proxy conflicts. Unlike the expensive, high-end AI strike drones used in Ukraine, RUSI reports adversaries are using gray zones to perfect low-cost, mass-producible AI swarms. The objective is not to win a battle, but to trigger a solvency crisis by neutralizing critical infrastructure with complete deniability. The legacy model of force-on-force conflict, typified by deployments in Afghanistan, is obsolete. The new doctrine bypasses conventional deterrence entirely. It weaponizes the fragility of our own complex systems. The gray zone is the launchpad for an asymmetric launch-on-warning posture, where a systemic crisis, a grid collapse, a banking freeze, is the first salvo. The leap from that crisis to a kinetic, zero-sum outcome is no longer a risk. It is a mathematical probability. The launch-on-warning protocol is not a choice. It is a systemic tripwire. The doctrine dictates that if early warning systems detect an incoming nuclear strike, a retaliatory launch is executed before the incoming warheads can impact and destroy command and control infrastructure. This protocol was designed for a world of analog radar and satellite verification. That world no longer exists. The primary liability is not the missile, it is the data network. USCERT and CISA have issued explicit warnings regarding critical vulnerabilities in infrastructure software, such as VMware's vCenter. These are not theoretical exploits. They are actively being used. An adversary does not need to build a satellite to blind the West. They only need to execute a remote code string. This creates the fog of digital war. Consider the scenario. A Russian Il-20 intelligence-gathering aircraft, as tracked by Japan, probes Allied airspace, elevating readiness. Simultaneously, an adversary uses a known VMware exploit to trigger a systemic blackout of the ballistic missile early warning system. The screens go dark. The commander now has a binary choice, compressed into minutes. The protocol demands launch. The data to verify or nullify the threat is gone. Is it a genuine attack or a systemic failure induced by a cyber vector? To hesitate is to risk total decapitation. To launch is to initiate a kinetic, zero-sum exchange. The asymmetric cost of the cyber attack is near zero. The kinetic cost of the protocol it triggers is everything. This is the mathematical certainty of brittle systems facing asymmetric vectors. The exploit vector is already public. CISA has issued the warning, a critical remote code. Execution vulnerability in VMware vCenter. This is not a theoretical liability, it is a deployed weapon. vCenter is the central nervous system for over 80% of Western data centers, cloud infrastructure, and logistics platforms. An exploit does not just steal data, it provides systemic control. While legacy assets like the Russian Il-20 spy aircraft map physical approaches, the real reconnaissance is digital. CSIS confirms state adversaries are no longer just mapping vulnerabilities. They are seeding them with autonomous AI agents. These are not brute force attacks. They are patient, logic-based infiltrators designed to learn a system's critical nodes before a coordinated, zero-warning execution. The calibration forecast. Within the next 12 months, expect a synchronized shutdown of the digital crane and logistics management systems at a Tier 1 North American or European container port. The event will last between 6 and 18 hours, creating a multi-billion-dollar kinetic cost in supply chain paralysis. It will be officially attributed to a cascading system failure. There will be no digital signature, no claim of responsibility. It is a mathematical demonstration, proving solvency can be weaponized at zero kinetic risk.